How do you build a 6-property portfolio on $83,000 worth of income? This live session is all about answering this question. How did this guy do it? He didn't start on $83,000 as well. He started on like $55,000, and he's been building his portfolio over the years, and he now has an incredible 7 going on to 8 properties. And it's an everyday Aussie story. This guy has nothing to sell. He's not a salesperson. He's not a buyer's agent. He's not a mortgage broker. He just lives a corporate life. He's had some pretty challenging times throughout the journey, but this is how he's done it. This is what the story is and what tonight or today, whenever the hell you're watching this, is all about. Hey everyone, my name's Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Oz Property Investors. It's Australia's largest property investment community, and each week we interview top property experts. This week is an investor story. It's with Ricky Chiu. You may know him from the property investment group Oz Property as Ricky Steamboat. He loves to jump in the comments. He is always giving insightful information, but he doesn't suffer a fool. Take action is the core fundamentals of this session that we ran with him. And if you guys want to learn more about it, tune in, check it out. Let's dive in and make it happen.
And we're live on Oz Property Investors when we're talking about getting the common denominator here. So we're having the big fun. It is amazing session here, team. Over 100 people registered. We are going to reveal stuff that is going to embarrass young Ricky thoughts on Perth, but it's going to be a big session. This is how you bought 6 properties on 83K income. So it's going to be amazing. So how you going, young Ricky? What's happening?
Oh, fantastic. It's just been a busy day. I work a pretty full-on corporate job, and every day is 10 hours. So
10 hours,
it's quite relaxing. Yeah.
If I haven't done 10 hours before 10 a.m., then I'm not working hard enough. So let's I mean, I'm only kidding. But no,
it's quite relaxing to also meet you guys on the screen.
Yeah, nice to meet you, mate. Well, you guys just had a property meetup, and this is one of the things that we need to do more of in Oz Property Investors is like do these meetups. It's great. You don't want to do well. This is it. This is why
I will attend a meetup. Organising it. Yeah, somebody organises it. I'll probably go. But yeah.
Well, Ricky, you've organised a great meetup. I think it was like 30, 40 people that rocked up to the last one that you organised. And it's great. Like that, Jeff, that's kind of how you and I met. Like this is how it's the people that show up and put energy and effort into the things that succeed in the space that they're in, right? Like just go to these things, meet people. Sorry, we don't organize them. We do a lot of other stuff and we don't have time to organize them, unfortunately. But Ricky, we will help you promote yours as much as we can. So you can be our one. You can be like
you can clip that up now and just play it back to Joe. It's like that time he said bye. No, we won't talk about that time. But no. So it is going to be a cracking session. Joe. How you going? You going well, man? You excited?
Oh, mate, I'm well. I'm bloody ready to rock and roll. Well, the whole point of today is Ricky and his story of achieving 6 properties on $83,000 worth of income. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's outrageous. I would even say. I was thinking about the concept of how that's done before, and yes, there was low interest rates, but it is insane how we can do it. So we will ask you those hard-hitting questions along the way. We will also be sharing the suburb, at least one suburb. We've pried out of him. So stay tuned. We'll be and I'll bring up the particular property as well as to where it is. So exciting times. I'll share those details. So Ricky, mate, before I'll introduce you, and I'm writing this intro. So Joe's seen my ability to write intros. I think this is one of my best work. But you are the founder, not the co-founder, of Australian Real Estate Meetups. So I'll drop that link later in the show. And you've got Toddy Sloan, maybe Michael Shah. You've done something that. Bringing people together to have chats about property investing and getting contracts reviewed. If you went to that meetup, you know what happened. So you are the owner of a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, 6 properties, buying your first as a house and land way back in 2004. Gee, that's an eternity ago. But so we'll share that story, how it unpacked, and not buying again until 2018. So that's held you back that long, all while on an 83K income. So the first question I wanted to ask you was, Ricky, What is the go with the memes? Like, first off, the memes, the tough love, and all that jazz. Why do you do these memes? What drives you? What drives young Ricky? Because I want to know that, and then we'll get talking more property.
Actually, there's no secret. It's just comedy has just been a part of my life, all my life. Just growing up, I was always the class clown. I was always the guy that brought people together. I was always the guy in awkward situations when no one talks. I'm also always the guy who talks. That's just a part of me.
Nice,
That's
nice.
so
That
funny.
wasn't that was very very tame, Ricky. But no, good on you, man. And the tough love. Why do you sort of feel that sometimes you get a little juicy in the comments? And I'll ask you about your first property, the house land. Or Joe can ask that one.
Oh, the tough love. I know on text sometimes, when you write something on the internet and you just read the words without any emotion, there's no smiley face behind it. It looks like I'm being rude and blunt and a bit of a jerk. But no, no, no. It's because I grew up in. If people didn't know, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm 46 years old, so I was born in '79. And growing up, that's all people gave, not just family, but I also went to a Catholic school when I went to primary. It was a Catholic school, and this is before all the laws kicked in about beating kids. So I was actually beat by teachers, openly beat by teachers. They would, if you did something that was against the grain, they would not only just beat you, they would take you to the front of the class and beat you in front of the class. And that was okay. Back then, the laws didn't kick
Hey,
in until I was like in year five.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
wow,
And
man! But
you
you're only 10 years older than me, though. Like, oh, you say 76, did you? Or like 90?
79.
Mate,
79.
they weren't doing that. They weren't even yeah, when I was in kindergarten, mate. If you anyway, interesting. Okay, here we go. I did not expect that. So, Joe, ask a question about the house and land because I want to hear Joe get fired up about house and land packages. Tell us about the
Well,
first
I don't
property.
know. Well, I mean, why a house and land package? Why was this your first amazing investment decision? What was this? How did this kick off?
Definitely. No, it wasn't amazing at all. It was probably probably the worst investment of my life. However, that was in financially worst investment, but it was actually the it was the I've learned more out
Catalyst.
of that. I learned more out of that mistake than anything else I've ever done. How it came about was I had a family friend, an uncle. He was speaking for a developer, so I remember rocking into his office. I think in 2000. It was the year before that when he presented the plan. So about 2003, and he rolled out the plans. And a developer at the time just bought a huge chunk of land from the Ipswich City Council. Back then, I saw pictures of it, and it was just like green land. There was no houses at all. And
Yeah.
I bought one of the first waves of houses that were built there. And he. Yeah, and he sold us a house and land package, and I thought, he's a family friend. He literally watched me grow up. So I've known him for, at the time I was what, 23 years old. So I've known him for about 22 years. His kids and I grew up together. He was always in our sort of family's life. So I thought, you can trust this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not only did I buy, I also brought a few friends to buy together. And I thought, let's get rich together. And so he
Yeah.
sold us all a house and land package. And then he effed off.
Jesus.
I found out later that Google wasn't big back then, but years later, when Google became a little bit bigger, I sort of Googled his name, and he's been hunted by a whole lot of people.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So he deliberately, well, because that was one of the things that I have a question on. Like I've interviewed people that are house and land property spruikers, and they just don't know better. They don't know any better, and they believe that this is the best asset and the best vehicle. And then when you push them on topics, it's only surface level. They're like, "Oh, I haven't been educated about that. I don't know." So I was going to ask you if you thought it was deliberate, but it sounds like this guy was deliberate rather than just and not knowing that maybe buying it. Like I was looking at I've got an email, like I get emails all the time about off market deals and all this stuff. And there was a piece of land for $45,000, like a 800 square meter block for $45,000. And that's the thing, like about these areas. If they're not established, if they don't have existing infrastructure, if they don't have these things, all land does, like across the board, is soak up the economic value that an area creates. And the people in that area invest in that area and want to live there. And then more people come and they say, I want to live here as well. And then and then another, but I want to live here as well. But if there's forever land, then people are just going to say, well, I'm not going to pay extra for this piece of land because I can just go here and pay the same amount. And then it just keeps going and going and going. So there's a lot of supply, which doesn't give you the demand that you need it to be. It just lets the demand eke out. And rather than building up like a pressure cooker, like in Sydney, right? Hemmed in by the ocean, hemmed in by the Blue Mountains, there's not much more land that you can create. So what were the
yeah.
yeah, you can go out. You can keep going out west for a little bit, but then but it does. But then that's actually a great point. Is it does eventually get the infrastructure? It does eventually get built out. So, like your deal, what did that actually look like over its lifetime? Like was it a shit deal for the first 5 years, and then turn into something good, or like what did that look like?
No, it was shit all the way up until COVID.
Okay.
So
Ah,
I held it. I held it for about 14 years. Oh, I'll just add this a little bit
Wow.
in. So why was it such a selling point? Why did I go ahead with it? It's because my uncle, I don't want to call him my uncle, the guy, the family friend, he he was working with the broker as well as a developer, and it was all his people, the conveyancer, it was all his people. So they got us 105% loans. And he also, so at the time when you're 23 years old, you had no money, no deposit, and someone says, I can get you a house with no deposit.
Mm.
It's a big selling point. And he
Yeah.
also mentioned that we all
Yeah.
get 10K bonuses. And I thought, what? I get a house with no deposit and I get 10K cash? I thought it was such a good thing. At the
Jesus.
time, what he did was him and his buddies overvalued the property and he basically took out equity that it never had. So that 10K that he gave me was actually worked into the loan of the house. That's why I was so far in negative equity. So
Wow.
yeah, bastard.
Man,
Jesus.
I'd hate to say that. Unfortunately, that may still happen today. Like 20 years on,
It does.
as much as we
It
sort of
does.
have the I mean, it's harder to do it because like it's not. But like these days to get that sort of signed off, there has to be some a whole bunch of collusion potentially around there. So but back then you would have just said let's do that, and then it just happened because there wasn't the Royal Commission. There wasn't. That's why they bought in all that sort of stuff. But mate, that's almost a harrowing story. So from there, because we're 10 minutes in, I want to get to the juicy stuff, as in some of the embarrassing the stuff that I've got some dirt on you, Ricky, and you already know about it. But it is embarrassing, but not embarrassing. It's interesting. Let's not. Sorry, Ricky. But how did you sort of overcome and sort of say, okay, I've been sold up shit creek without a paddle there. What happened next? Like, what did you discover? It was a bad property, and how did you get on back on track somewhat?
Yes, to finish answering Joe's question. He asked, so what happened? So it did nothing for 14 years. You can probably look at the data yourself. So I think in the 14 years I held it, I might have increased the rent maybe twice,
Yeah.
maybe 3 times, but each time it was insignificant. It was like $10 or $20. So yeah, and it wasn't until COVID that it actually started moving. And sorry, what was your question again, Jeff?
Well,
Was this?
okay.
Oh, sorry, go.
No, go, Jeff.
I just want to know. Well, can we share the state? Was it in Queensland or was it Victoria? Was it New South Wales?
oh, Ipswich, Ipswich,
Ipswich.
Oh, switch. Oh, mate, what are you
Ipswich,
yeah, the
Ipswich.
switch. Jeez, back in 2004, and that's kind of when because they would have gone through the GFC in 2007, 2008. I mean, it went through GFC everywhere, but you would have almost been buying not close to the peak, and then they had the floods in Brisbane, which then impacted it again. So,
That's
and
right.
then supply. But yeah, jeez, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the biggest problem with this is how much it's probably hampered your capital growth, right? Like the first purchase that you make is so crucial to the investment story, and the second and the third get pretty important as well. But that first one needs to set you up to allow you to you save money still, but also you need the equity growth. And if you had 14 years of no growth, is pointless. Like it may have even been positive and it would have been putting money into your pocket, but still it's like, what's the point of this bloody asset?
Yeah. So in that 14 years, not only did I start off on negative 100K negative equity, well,
the yields were like, I don't know, 3.5% maybe. And I actually couldn't afford to pay the repayment. I had to like take
Oh
credit
wow.
card money, and I just struggled all the way through the 14 years. And then I had a
Jeez.
lucky break. I had a friend who was dealing a lot in shares. I know nothing about shares, but he showed me his ComSec app, and it was like a 7-digit number in there. And I thought, oh, if you know what you're doing, this is the only way I can break out of it, because there's no way on a low salary I can pay off this negative 100K. By the way, 83K is the end game. When back in 2004, my salary was like, it was 50, 60, 62, 65. Like I crept up to 83. I didn't start with 83.
Right.
Did you
Um,
say?
and
Did you
so
say in 2004 your salary was 60K?
no, sorry. 2004, it was, sorry, I started, yes, when I bought it, my opening salary was 55. 55.
Jeez. What? So in 2000, mate, in 2004, my salary was zero because I was just about to go into high school. But yeah, no. Actually, no, that's a lie. Yeah, no, I know. I just
Relevant
wanted to.
is
Yeah, I
that,
thought that was.
Jeff?
No, because he said his salary was
So you're
that's a
younger.
huge
Okay,
salary.
fine.
Yeah, but
Yeah, what
anyway.
I wanted to say is you're
So
old,
somebody's.
Ricky. That's all. That was
I
the
know.
point of that story. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so
You're welcome.
so what did you take away from this, right? Because this is not a harrowing experience, but from a financial standpoint, it's pretty harrowing. So what happened, and what was the next purchase from that, and how did you recover from it?
So I just started talking about that. But I had a friend who was dealing in shares, and he showed me his ComSec app, and it had a 7-digit number in there, and he
$1
was doing
million.
big
And $1
trades
million in shares.
over, yeah, over, yeah.
Whew.
So
Nice.
and then I said, look, there's no way I can't save up on a salary of whatever 50, 60K. I can't save up for another deposit, and I can't pull equity because I'm negative 100. So at the time I also went through a divorce, and there was no split of assets. I just said, you keep it, and then I wasn't in a good mind space, so I said, you keep everything. I don't want to fight about it. I didn't have the energy to go to court or whatever. At the
Yeah.
time I had 20K and nothing else, 20K and nothing else. So with that 20K, I chucked it into a stock, and that stock did well. You guys can look it up now. It's PLS, Pilbara Minerals. I bought it at
Okay.
about maybe 26, 28 cents, and I sold
Wow.
out at about $1.28. So
I'm just
I made about
gonna put this on
$5.
pro, Ricky. We're not saying buy this stock. This is a mining stock, so it's like buying a. I mean, yeah. So this is general information only, people. Go and speak to your share brokers, all those people, before financial advisors, before considering that. But sorry, Ricky, go on. So you made money on a hot mining stock.
Yeah. So I put out 100K. It was probably
Wow.
100, 120K. Yeah, completely sold out just because I had no interest in stocks. It made a lot of money, and I'm happy and I'm grateful for that. But you don't interact with stocks. You just buy and you stare at it. My heart was always with real estate. Just to timestamp it. So I have a house negative 100K equity. With 128K that I put out stock, at the time BAs were big, so I was scouring the property chat forums, which I'm sure everyone knows about. And there was a new thing
Definitely
going on
check it
called
out.
buyers agents, and
They
yeah,
smashed us on
that's what
there.
they.
Hey, property chat. Anyway, doesn't matter.
I saw that thread.
That's
Anyway,
okay. Yeah.
yeah. So I
Cool.
found a buyer's agent, and at the time it was charging about $8,000. And I thought, okay, go take it. And then he found me a property, also in regional Queensland, and that was my number two, 2018.
So that Ipswich property was negative $128,000.
Equity.
About
Yeah.
negative 100, negative 100.
So you couldn't even sell it, because if you sold it, you would owe the bank $100,000. Jesus
That's right.
Christ, that is so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
14 years
Well,
later,
that's.
oh, you want to hold this? It's going to cost. Yeah, that's harrowing. Now it's harrowing. Jesus
I told you it
Christ.
was. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, he just told me it was. I don't need to hear it from you, Jeff. Got it from the horse's mouth. Okay, so that's incredible though. Like it didn't stop you. You said property is the way forward. I understand this as being a vehicle that's going to help me, and that's the interest. Like that's exactly how I started to get my deposit as well. I was investing. Like I only had a small amount of money, and I'm like, how do I compound this as much as I can? Having it in a savings account that's going to give me 4% interest is not going to do it, because then I have to pay the tax, on the 4%. And that's the beauty of having an offset account now. You can plop it all into the offset and get a guaranteed 6.5% interest rate that is offset. Sorry, how much was your next purchase? What did that look like? What did that deal look like?
That
And what
deal.
year?
So after 2018, that's when afterwards I used 100K to buy that place. That's number two. So what happened was, during that time, that's when I discovered P-Chat, Property Chat, and that's when I was trying to get more familiar with the terms and stuff. Because even though a BA did the service for me, I didn't want to constantly keep paying at the time, because if you're not on a high salary, constantly paying 10K per purchase is, it's a big hit of cash flow. So
Yeah.
I want to get educated, and so that's why I was on P-Chat. I was trying to talk to people about areas and just terms. Back then, I didn't know what LVR was, LMI was. I was really newbie, asking the really basic questions. So during that time, getting educated, COVID hit. So COVID hit, I think, when was it? December 19? January 21,
Yeah.
20?
Well, in Australia, it kind of came around March of 2020, but I suppose it started to become more of a thing in China, and then sort of progress from there. In December of November, December 2019. That's when I didn't think it would. But
Kicked off in
just to
March.
take a step back. Well, March was Australia, but yeah, it started to sort of
Yeah.
kick off and spread
Right.
around December, January of 2020. But back to LMI and LVR. So LMI, for those, because we're going to have some people here who've never invested in property before and may not have even sort of know what a broker is, as crazy as that may sound. So LMI is lender's mortgage insurance, and that's where generally if you're above 80%, you have to take that out. That protects the lender. So you just need to be mindful. That doesn't protect you. That's not insurance for you. That's in case you default on the property. LVR is loan to value ratio as well, which is how much of a deposit you're putting in. So, but you back to Ricky. So COVID hit and Oz Property popped up. Maybe when did you join Oz Property? Probably in 2022, wasn't it?
I think only, around 22, 23. I think I joined once, and then I
You
quit.
left the group. Bloody hell.
Really?
It's not for any bad reason. It's just that I joined a whole bunch of groups, and I only wanted to stay in the ones that I got value out of. This is not.
Bloody hell.
That's not what I meant. It
Wow.
came out wrong.
Yeah.
No, but I was
Interview
hopping
done.
in and out of groups. Sorry,
Yeah.
let me rephrase. I was hopping in and out of groups to try to find my people, if that makes sense. So, well, I'm here now. So,
Hey.
but
Yeah. Now he's made his
what was I
money.
up to?
Now he's
And
made his millions. We are nobodies to him. Thank you, mate. But no, you should. And this is the funny thing is, there's a lot of people that are out there now. You got to find the person that resonates with you as well. Like there's people that you chat with, and it's like, cool, yeah, go find the people that are saying the things that. But it needs to make sense as well. Like you can't just say, oh, that guy looks pretty. He's driving a Lamborghini and driving a Ferrari. Like this doesn't mean he's actually, got your best interest at heart. So you do have to think about that as well. But sorry, mate, go on.
it wasn't a reflection on you guys. It was.
No,
I think
yeah.
it's the questions that
I've had
see.
people say a lot worse things. But to your point, Joe, the way I kind of think about this is I used to, when I was going around, when I was starting and Ricky, we were probably starting to the education thing at a similar time, although you bought your first almost 10 years before me. I was going around to the DHAs, the blue chip, the regional sort of stuff. And I was going around and hearing the thing that really sort of then resonated with me is I was picking up the pieces that started to where they were saying similar noises. So I was picking up the wisdom from each, and there are commonalities amongst every one of them. And I thought, okay, so I'm piecing together what works for me, because you're going to get something from each of these. Even house and land, you need to understand then it's about scarcity, because there's usually typically no scarcity in house and land in most situations, not always, but in those greenfield estates. So I think it's important to sort of go broad initially, and then you sort of will see what resonates for you, and then you start to join your crew, the people who you resonate with. So I think that's probably what you were trying to say, Joe. Or maybe you weren't. Maybe I'm just putting. Somebody said boot. Greg saying boot Ricky. That's not very nice. So Ricky, somebody's already asking, where are the free boom locations, Ricky? Where are they? Where would Ricky buy now? And we get DMs about this day in, day out, and I try and answer as many as I can. But what does that mean to you, Ricky? When somebody asks that question, how do you answer that question? And we'll get back to your portfolio.
Yeah. So, okay. I can speak to that. I think it's a very, I think it's a meaningless question to ask someone where to buy. Once you've got your fundamentals, all right, and there are a lot of property experts out there. I mean, I'm staring at you right now. once you've got your fundamental, you can find your own boom locations. All right, and I have a sort of a little analogy to go with that. Like, say I was an aspiring basketball player, and I met Michael Jordan. I wouldn't ask him, "How do you win a championship?" I would ask him, "Hey, Michael, what is your daily routine? What do you do every single day?" And his answer is going to sound something like, "I wake up 4 in the morning. Um, I go to the gym for 2 hours. I have a hearty breakfast, and then I go to the basketball court and I take 1,000 shots that day, and I don't go home until I've hit 800 of them." It'll sound something like that. And when you do enough of that, your fundamentals, the boom location, your championship, it will come at the end. A lot of people, I think it's a big mistake. A lot of people just come out and say where to buy. That means nothing, because today I might say Melbourne. In 2 months' time, it's Darwin. 2 months after that, it could be Perth. It means nothing. Find your own boom locations. Yeah, work on your fundamentals. Does that
That's a
answer the question?
great, that's a great answer. It's like, I see that question, I'm like, oh man, you're just lazy. Like, don't be lazy. And obviously you do want everyone wants a shortcut. Everyone wants to shortcut it, but it really does depend on your brief. Like, Jeff and I bought a block of units for $1 million, and then we bought another property in Townsville for 430,000. It's like, but our brief is completely, like, those are two different assets, but also our brief is completely different as well. So it's trying to, yeah. Now, well, yeah, actually, that's probably a worthwhile. Well, I don't think it's a worthwhile discussion, but we'll talk about that. We're in the process. So we bought a property in Townsville. We're going to subdivide it off, split it off a corner block, and based on the state regulations, we can actually potentially put a 5-bedroom rooming house on it. So we will talk. We'll talk about that later. If it goes through, it might not be. It might just be a 1 into 2 subdivision, which just still makes hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thanks, Manas. He said, seen Ricky Chiu's sarcasm and witty humor comments in many Facebook groups on property. First time seeing him live, he does not disappoint. Go to you may be able to get to see Toddy Sloan, maybe Michael Shah tomorrow as well. So Ricky, okay, we're at 2 properties, and the third is also the second was in regional Queensland, my understanding. So number 3, well, where do we sort of? There was still a bit of a gap because you bought the third in 2021, did you?
Oh, hold on. It was number 3. A lot has happened in the last few years. Sorry. So number 3, I think it was either just before or just after COVID lockdown. You know, we had a hard lockdown of about 3 months.
Yeah.
I forgot if it was just before or just after. It was a lot of blurred sort of memory in that sort of period. But whether it's before or after, difference is only 3 or 4 months. So actually it was just after, because I remember I did a lot of education during the hard lockdown. During the hard lockdown, I worked in what was considered not emergency services, essential services. I used to work for Optus, and phones were an essential service. That's the only way. It sounds weird, but that's the only way people can connect when there was a lockdown. So we didn't lose our jobs, fortunately. Yeah. So during that time, we were forced to work from home for about 3 or 4 months. And in that time, while I was working, I just had YouTube running literally like 16 hours a day. And a lot of just did a lot of education, a lot of YouTubers. I saw a couple of you guys, doing videos back then as well. So this is before I knew you guys. So I was listening to a whole host of educators, picked up a lot of tips, got educated, learned a lot of things about property. And then straight after that, the lockdown phase, I settled one in regional New South Wales.
Spicy. Okay. I thought you were about to say the suburb then, but then you realize you're like, oh, no, hang on, I'm not saying the suburb.
Can you wait too
Stay
much?
tuned. Ricky will reveal one of his investment suburbs. So how did that process look? Were we in lock? Were you able to inspect it? Like, how did you actually go about buying? Because the third was without the BA. You were doing it yourself, right?
Yeah. So after the second one, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, how did that look like? Did you get it inspected by a property manager? Did you get able to get out there yourself? Like, what was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So at the time, so when I went through my number 2, the BA at the time, thankfully, copied me in all the emails. So he didn't show me anything strategic that he did in terms of negotiation, but because he copied me in the emails, I know the timeline of events that you need to do. So, you look for the house, you make the offer, then you got to get the finance and then BMP and then talk to conveyance, go back and forth, and, negotiating for the BMP, etc. So I knew the timeline of events and I thought, let me try this myself because I can't, 16K salary, I can't keep paying 10K each time. So I went to, the house that I bought in regional New South Wales, did that all myself. I sort of fudged my way through it. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was checking. But at the time, the main thing that sold me was the yields. The yields it started off at something like 9%. So I said, at the
What?
very bare minimum, I don't know anything about. Yeah, it was pretty high.
9%. Yeah, and
I,
interest
I
rates
don't
would have
think it
been
was.
at like
Yeah.
2. Like in COVID, they dropped drastically. 0% interest. No, we didn't go to 0, did we? We went to like
That was the cash,
0.15
Oh,
the
or
cash rate. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's quite
As
the
low.
interest
lowest it would
rates
have
went.
gotten was, it would have gotten to about probably 1.8% roughly.
Yeah,
Crazy.
about there. And the rent was exceptionally high. So I took it. I didn't check the fundamentals. I didn't know about it. I just needed something that I can afford to hold on a low salary. So
What was the
that was my number
can
3.
can I ask Ricky, and you can say, I mean, you can give me a broad number if you want. What was the rough purchase price on this deal in regional New South Wales?
About
That's a
at the time,
15?
it was under 200. Now it's
Nice,
probably
nice.
doubled. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. COVID did a lot of heavy lifting. So
No, but yeah, like I actually acknowledge that in the comments because people are like, "Oh yeah, great." And I said, "What? How did you kind of do this on that sort of income?" And I said, "Well, yes, there was low interest rates. Yes, there was." And somebody said, "Is there going to be another boom soon?" And I said, "Well, I've actually seen 3 or 4 in my time, and I've been the beneficiary. So if you don't think there's a way to do it, then you're right. If you think there is a way to do it, then you're also right. So you just need to kind of
Make it
look out and
happen.
match what works for you." Um, what I wanted to share as well, Ricky, because I think this is maybe not embarrassing for you, but it's something that I think is interesting. It's not our Facebook page here. It is our so here's bring it up. Can you? Here we go. Is that big enough, Joe, or do I need to make it bigger? Made
Zoom
it as
in.
big as I can.
Zoom in.
Zoom in.
Click
Bloody hell.
no, it's fine. Click the expander arrows on the actual post
Yeah,
up the top right of the black
is that big
screen.
enough? This one. Okay.
No,
Here we go.
yeah,
So
that one.
Ricky,
Yeah,
this
perfect.
Yeah. When was your research? So this is some of your research before you bought your third property, right? So was this in 2020 you were doing this or 2021? Like tell us more about this because I shared this the other day and I thought 2021. So how did you come up with all these details about closest major town, terrain, sales demand, rental ratio index, I think it is, and depreciation, insurance? So these are kind of things that metrics you were looking at initially. But how did you kind of come to these as things you were looking at?
yeah. So actually, I think I got the year wrong. That regional New South Wales one. Come to think of it, was 2020. It was before I did this. It was after I did
Okay.
that. It was after I did that because I fudged my way through it. I found out things
Yeah.
that I didn't check because the conveyancer was asking me. It goes, "Oh, have you checked this? Have you checked that?" I go, "No, did you have to?" And then I realized, oh shit, I need a checklist of things that I got to check before I spend, a ton of money on property. Uh, so, so at the time, I wasn't sure what I needed to check. So I was just making up data factors as I go along. As you can see, some of them look pretty ridiculous. Some of them make
Yeah.
sense. I knew that I needed high rent, so hence the rent index. I knew
Yeah.
because I was getting um,
Jesus.
big fat tax returns for my first 2 properties. I knew that depreciation was a thing, so I had to make sure that those houses for that price range that I was looking at had depreciation, meaning it was built after a certain year.
Okay.
I
So
see.
you're
And
still
then there was
thinking from a depreciation standpoint because that would have been that would have been the only saving grace to your portfolio at that time, was some of the depreciation that you were getting from the new build, which is not the aim of
that's right.
buying investments, right? But it does help.
It does help. Yeah, when you're on a 60K salary and your tax return is $11,000, it's a lot of fucking money. so, so I thought, oh, that's going to be one of my dollar factors.
That's
I
so
mean, it's not.
true.
Yeah.
I don't look at it now because I realize it's not that important. It's good, but it's not that important.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So where did you end up? So there was quite you were looking all over the place. Toowoomba was on the list. Rockhampton, Cairns, Mackay, Townsville. Where did you end up buying
Emerald,
this
Moranbah. Yeah, lots of places.
number three?
Yeah, yeah. I have a page for the WA suburbs too. Couldn't fit it all
Oh,
in
in
the screenshot,
WA.
but yeah.
Oh, cool.
Um, yes. So the logic of how I came about to those areas was this again. This was I keep repeating myself, but coming from a low salary background, I needed high yields. And that's
Mm.
why I kept coming back to no matter how I put the query into realestate.com, WA and Queensland just kept coming up just because the rents were higher. And hence why I shortlisted. It wasn't a short list, but it was shortlisted to that.
Yeah. It's
Good
interesting
list.
because the purchase prices that we're talking about here are not incredibly high. Like, I mean, even now, the properties that you purchased for $200,000 are now worth $400,000. So you could go to these markets today if you only have, $50,000, $60,000 of cash, and then a little bit of borrowing ability. Like there's no excuse. You can still make it happen, but you do need to make sure that there's still value and growth and affordability for the people that live there to take it from a $200,000 to a 400,000. But can it go from 400,000 to 800,000, for instance? Like, can it double again? And then can it go from 800? The people that live there, can they go from 800 to 1.6 million? Hey, maybe not right now. Uh,
There's,
Cool.
there's so many
Okay.
questions that
So,
come through, Joe, and you're making amazing points here. But sorry, keep going on, mate.
oh, thanks, mate. Oh, very kind. Did you do any? Here's a question. While we're here,
Oh,
did
yeah.
you do any renovations or value adds on these deals? No, no, no.
Waving his
I'm
waving his finger.
not
A
against
bit
it.
aggressive.
No, no.
Not today.
Not part of my strategy. Because I'm a single parent, and I'm a very hands-on parent too. I'm the uh, you know, when my daughter was going through primary school, I was the pick-up dad, the drop-off dad, the cook your dinner dad, bathe you dad, read stories to you at night dad. I was very hands-on, so I don't have time and just brain space to uh, organize renos because you need to talk to tradies, you need to project manage, and I just didn't have brain space to do that. Different story now. She's a bit older now, so a little bit more independent. So I am looking into that space.
Interesting. And I guess that's a part of a decision that you've deliberately made, right? Like, I want to spend, she's growing up brand new, she's fresh to this world. I want to actually be around and spend the time with her. But it doesn't sound like it has actually affected your financial journey because you still went after it, you still made these purchases happen. Like the way I think about renovation, especially nowadays, I don't know if I've said this on the lives, but renovations used to be $1 in and $3 out. With the cost of trades, it's like, I'm not going to say it's impossible to make monies in reno. We're literally doing it right now, but it's now $1 in and $1.50 out, or $2 out, rather than $1 in and $3 out like it used to be. Not that
Ricky said he doesn't get out of bed for $200 million worth of purchases. So anyway, no, but no. If you read the comment, but no. So Joe, I want to say, man, I reckon we can still do it. We just have to do the kind of conversion kind of situation. But I suppose you don't want to talk about that too much, like the 3 into 4 conversion, like that. Would you classify that as a reno, or I mean, it kind of is, but is that a
Yeah,
different kind of reno?
basic, like it's a strategic reno. Like, but it doesn't take much to do that. Yeah, you can do it. There's a really good question here by Tommy. Thanks, Tommy, for posting that one. Ricky, did you ever have a battle with the emotional element when you decided not to use a buyer's agent? I believe one of the many key roles that a buyer's agent does is takes away the emotional element. Great question.
No. Well, sorry. Yeah, put it up again. Battle with emotional
Yeah.
element. I'm gonna have to take a stab at what that means. No, I'm
Well,
not
just
a
like,
very emotional.
yeah,
Sorry.
there
Well,
you go.
it's actually hard because I've spoken having these conversations recently. We've been having a level up and that sort of thing. The biggest thing I'm seeing is the confidence to actually execute the strategy. People know information is not the challenge. It's actually going out there and saying, okay, look, I can now have that conversation with the agent, and I can sort of I can sort of not overpay and walk away from the deal. And just when you've missed out for that on that 50th property, you said, okay, well, I've just missed out on 50 properties I didn't need to buy. I'll go and buy the 53rd property. So that's kind of when it's emotional. Like some people will just say, oh, I'm sick and tired of going open homes. I'm sick and tired of ringing agents. I'm just going to buy the next property. I don't care what I need
Yeah.
to do. I'm just going to buy it. So that's where I think the emotional element can come into it.
Yeah, but also, I don't necessarily like. It's also the emotional element of, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful property. I would love to live here. No, you don't want to live here because there's an easement, up the middle of the block, and it's actually blah 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 blah. Great, that's actually not a good buy for you. But you're like, oh, but it is so pretty. I don't know. Maybe it's a mix of all of this one. I mean, that sounds like it's not such a consideration for you because you're not quite an emotional investor.
Yeah, I think so. There's a multiple layers to that. Firstly, I've always been sort of a numbers-driven person. Secondly, this is not a PPOR. This is investment properties. So investment properties, at the rawest form is, or any investment rather, is I want to put X dollars in and I want to take more than X dollars out. I don't care about the color of the walls or what type of carpet to use or or the color of the fence. They're not important to me. So I was never an emotional investor.
Great. Someone just, I think it was Kushao.
Crucial.
Kushal, sorry. Ricky is an investor, not a buyer. Such a great way to sum it all up. And that's what you have to be. Like, this is like, I don't really care for property, right? Very good at buying property, very good at finding good deals, but I don't care what it is. I'm not doing this. I'm not buying an investment property because of an emotional aspect. I'm doing it because I want to make money out of the actual deal, and the dynamics make sense for me to make financial sense out of it. So you do have to just take that emotional part out of your brain. Now, not completely. I see people like, oh my gosh, the spreadsheet says it's an amazing buy. And then you look at it, it's like, yeah, but the like it's got these problems here, and here. Like it's got, housing commission right next door. It's got all of these non like quantifiable numbers to it as well, which you do have to overlay. Like, would you live there is not always, if it's yes, it doesn't always necessarily mean a buy, but you should have that thought. Like, is this something that I would like to live in? Because that means it's got some owner occupier appeal to it. But also, if you're buying in the more affordable pocket and the more affordable price range, and you have $150,000 salary and you're looking in an area that's $300,000, you can't compare what you would live in versus what someone in that situation would live in, because it's not really fair. So yeah, don't be a snobby investor. So what were you learning along the way? Like, what were some of the key points of like that compounded on top of each other, and you're like, yes, I've kind of like, what are some of the unlocks that helped you? Along the way.
I think a big lesson for me was, like, I learned very early on, was that we're not special. Being shot down by so many different agents, I would have to make 20 offers to have one accepted. So I learned very early
Wow.
on. That's where that tough love piece comes from. That's we're
Wow.
not special to anyone. The only people that think I'm special is mum, dad, maybe my kids, my siblings. That's about it. As soon as you go out there in the real world, that agent doesn't care who you are. If your offer is not in the top two, if he's received 20 offers that day and you're not in the top two or top three, you're nothing to him. So I learned very early on, because when I was looking at Elizabeth, I called some of the agents there. This when Elizabeth was 180K.
Talking about Elizabeth, South Australia, right?
Yeah, yeah, South Australia. And then back then when I didn't know anything, I thought I was so used to customer service that I thought he was going to sell to me. So I called the agent and I go, "Oh, I'm interested in this house." He goes, "Okay, what else do you want?" I go, "Oh, can you tell me the features?" I swear to God, and he said, "Well, it's a house. It's got a roof, a door, and a couple of windows. Like, what do you want to know?" And I said, "Oh, all right." I was yeah.
That was polite, young Ricky. That was polite, mate. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking Elizabeth, mate. They don't have time, man. They gotta drive through the. Yeah, anyway. Sorry.
So I learned very early on that it's very cutthroat, and I'm not special to these people unless I give a very tempting offer. I'm a nobody to them.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a great point. You were special to me,
David said
Ricky.
you're special to him.
It's a great way to go into it. But the key point that I took away from that is you have to make 20 offers if you want to get a deal. What actually, how did that work out? How did that pan out for you? Because the biggest, not the biggest, but one of the scary points is putting forward an offer to the agent. How did you think about offers? Because if you're putting out 20, that's a shitload.
Yeah. So this is when things were heating up because it is after COVID and things were heating
Yeah.
up. And then
Adelaide was
I think
ridiculous.
it builds a lot of character getting rejected too. So I'm actually grateful for being rejected.
Yeah.
So yeah. So when I started looking at the regional Queensland area, seriously, every offer, every house that I was making offers on had 30, 40, 50 offers. And they were overbidding by 50K, 40K, 60K. Yeah, you just have to be persistent and persevere. You have to keep making phone calls. If you want off-market deals, I've scored a number of my properties off-market deals. You just have to make phone calls. There's no shortcut. There's no link where you click onto it and then you get this list of off-market deals. You just have to build relationships.
There we
Yeah.
go. So there's
Well, that's the thing.
that
I like the
almost.
I like the saying: if you're not making offers, you're not making money. And it's the scariest thing because someone's like, "Oh my gosh, I have to buy this property." Just put an offer in. If just put an offer in. Run your due diligence. Run a couple of due diligence steps and put an offer in and see if you're going to get it. And then you'll lose it, and you'll start building that thick skin pretty quickly. Because, like what you're saying, Ricky, you're working full time. You've got full time and a full-time parent as well, along with a full-time job. You just don't have time to dick around. So great, here's an offer. It's a great property. It stacks up. The suburb works. These pockets are good. This is the area that fits. This is my max purchase price. This is where I see value. Here's an offer. Like everything else stacks. I'll get it inspected. We'll run the pest and building. We'll be all right. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. A little bit more complicated than that, but not much more.
No, absolutely, no, absolutely right. Not only have I bought a few for me, but I'm starting to buy for friends and family as well. So I've settled about maybe 14 deals. So, it, after you've bought a few, you sort of understand what agents are wanting to hear. It's like courting a girl. There are some things that is the wrong thing to say. There are some things that is the right thing to say. So you just have to,
Or
just
guy,
work out.
girl, whoever. Yeah, yeah. We're not
Or
not no judgment. We're 2025, and oh mate,
Yeah, Jack,
I've
you
done
do
heaps.
you.
So, but I feel I want to bring us back. We're at 45 minutes, gents.
Sorry.
I want to bring us back on track. So I think we've gone on. We don't need to know how. We can talk about that at Ricky's meetup tomorrow if you want to know how to court people. Don't bring a contract to his meetup, by the way. But no, we promised we would reveal an address of a property or a suburb at least. So it's up to you how far you go with that. But
If you're
I'm
giving up
conscious we've got a
suburb.
couple. Sorry, yeah. We've got an ad we've got to play, and I want to say so. We've done 3 properties. So first off, you bought in that house and land in Ipswich or Ippy, the Switch as they call it. Number 2, you had regional Queensland or regional New South Wales, was it? And then number 3,
Queensland.
Ricky, was regional Queensland. Yeah. So I've got 3 more properties you bought, and one of them's going to be we're going to be talking to the suburbs. So I'm excited for that, and let's crack into it.
Just do it. Smooth.
Yeah. And I'm going to do something very sneaky to please you. I've got approval from him to do it. As Easter's coming up, there's a little bit of an Easter egg. So poke your eyes on the group. So there is a question though before we get to number 4, because this will be one that everybody. I wanted to ask it as well because I want you to, in a process, give it to us. Ricky, did you? Oh, that's not the emotional one. Sorry, that's the wrong question. I built that up so well, and then. So the question is, Ricky, can you explain how you continue to grow your LVR with taking out so much debt? 30 on 83K a year max. Not sure how you can be in positive cash flow without large deposits that aren't tied to equity kind of coming along. So let's address that, because that is a bit of an elephant in the room, because you're like, crap, you built the multi-million-dollar property portfolio. And I even said, look, crap, okay, yes, they probably doubled, but yeah. So take us through the process of how you did that, or as much as you can.
Yeah, so I'll probably throw a So I might answer this question because it's been asked to me a few times. Just before I answer this question here.
There's a
So
few.
a lot of people have said to me, "Ricky, you seem like a relatively intelligent guy. Why are you on this low income all that time?" So I sort of mentioned before, being the full time parent. So because I went through that sort of divorce, that explains it. Because I was doing a job that allowed me to go in at 10 o'clock, leave at 2 o'clock for pickup. So that answers that question. Because everyone's going to be thinking, Ricky, why would you stay on a 80K salary? So that's the answer. Anyway, to answer this question, so there's a few layers to this question as well. So because I know that my base salary was never really that high, I had to work extra hard to find these extra high yields. One of the deals that I mentioned before was 9%. A lot of my deals actually look like that. It was like 8-9%, and that goes
Yeah.
towards surfacing. Like even though my base salary is 83K. By the time I got my sixth property, I've got six properties earning at about between 8 and 10% because of the rent increases over the years. 8 and 10%, and that goes towards servicing. So my annual income, including 6 properties rent, is probably 250K, maybe 240K. Yeah. So
Jeez.
yeah, it's over two. Wait, hold on. Yeah, about sorry, maybe 230K.
Yeah.
And
With
so
and
when
the
my
income
borrowing
from
gets
the
assessed,
properties.
yeah, the income from
Yeah,
the
they love it.
properties.
They're like, oh my gosh, this guy's he's got all the cash in the world because his portfolio is giving him 8-9%. Now, are you seeing places out there in Australia now that have these type of returns that still have capital growth?
That you'd actually buy.
Then back 6.5, 7 is doable, but you really have to look for those.
At what
Also,
price ranges?
another. Sorry, what was that?
At what price ranges?
It'd be on the lower side, obviously. Your 350s to 400s, but you wouldn't be getting 7% on a 600K, probably, unless you put a bigger deposit. But sorry, and another layer to the answer to that question would be also T3 and T2 lenders. I don't hesitate at all. If I can get an asset, I don't care what the interest rate is. I know, because I see in the Facebook group a lot of people say, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
7%, that's crazy." I think 3 of my houses are on 7.5%, or were on 7.5%, with First Mac. But I said I don't care. I got an asset. 1%. So the average interest rate is what, 6.5. I'm paying 7.5, so that's
Yeah.
1%. 1% over $500,000 is $5K a year. So to lose $5K and then gain $50K equity, that's a bug. I look at the big picture. I don't think about interest rates all too much, unless I can't afford it. If it gets to the point where it's negative cash flow, like dipping into my savings, then I might not. If I can afford to hold it, I'm happy to give 5K to earn 50K.
There you go.
Basic
Yeah,
math,
we talk
baby.
about that a lot, and that's where they say property is a game of finance, because everybody says you can't build that multi-million-dollar property portfolio on that sort of under 100K income, and yes, it is a little bit harder these days because interest rates aren't at 2 or 3%; they are at 6%. But if, as we see interest rates come down, like they could potentially come down between 1 and 1.5% to around that sort of 4.5 to 5%, depending on where you sort of go. So as you sort of see that start to come down, and as rents have increased as well, potentially in some parts. But yeah, so that's going to open up some borrowing capacity, but also open up some competition. So it's a double-edged sword, because as you see increased borrowing capacity, increased things. So Okay, Ricky, number 4, mate. Take us there. Where are we going in Australia for number 4?
I think I skipped a bit. So after number 2, before regional New South Wales, I actually sold my first property, the homeland package.
Oh, you sold the
Oh,
Switch.
yay.
Goodness.
I
Nice.
sold that, yeah. So that's -1 property, yeah. So then I bought 4 after that. But yeah, so at the time I was made redundant from Optus that I worked there for 16 years. I was made redundant, and at the time, mum and dad were also going through some medical issue. So I didn't have again the brain space to do everything all at once. So I sold one of my properties just to say that, look, money's not an issue. That's one thing. That's one less thing to think about. I have to,
Yeah.
fix up mum, dad, and I have to, and also got evicted all in the same year. The owner was selling, so I got evicted.
Jesus
So yeah, I had to
Christ.
sort out mum, dad. I had to find a new place to live. And so I thought that I have to take one of these factors out. So that's why I sold the house. Because with a buffer of, I think I took out 100K out of that one. So it was negative 100K. It grew 200. So I net took out 100K. So I sort of sat in that for a while before I looked for a new job.
That's
while I was
crazy,
fixing
isn't it?
mum
How
and dad
much?
up.
What was the purchase price of that? 400, 300?
Oh, in 2004, I paid like 380K. So
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
Brisbane was absolutely booming in that sort of early 2000s sort of period. Like it went hard early 2000s, and then it got hit pretty hard in the GFC, or hit harder than the rest of Australia. And then sort of didn't do much for. This is an interesting question that I wanted to ask. The tactics. I love that people are thinking a little bit sort of strategically, and that's what those are the kind of questions and people. But even any question is a good question. But this one is: are your investment loans, and they're all investment loans because you don't have a PPR, do you? But are those loans interest only, Ricky?
half and half. I've got 7 loans. Because one of them is an equity pool. So 4 of them are interest only, and 3 of them are P&I. You need supple. It depends what your cash flow position is like. If you're a high earner, then you can put them all on interest only. But I need some of them to be on P&I just so I can get extra borrowing. You need borrowing capacity. Yeah.
Yes, and I'll quickly. I mean, do you want to talk that, Ricky, or do you
No,
want me to kind of
you
talk
talk
that?
to it, Jeff.
Okay. You like, and I'll have some loan talk. So, because typically, principal and interest is better for serviceability. Not with all lenders, and speak to your broker, because there are some second and third tier lenders that will take interest only at actual. So the reason that they do, they take interest only as being worse for serviceability. A lot of lenders do anyway, is because then if you take a 5-year interest only period, at some stage they're assuming you're going to convert it over to principal and interest. And instead of paying that loan off over 30 years, you then need to pay principal and interest over 25 years. And that's going to be a higher repayment. So that's where people think interest only, it's my cash flow is great. But then they don't think of, oh crap, what happens when I can't get interest only lending get it renewed? So then lenders will be like, okay, because they're extremely conservative and risk averse. So I hope that made sense to people. If it didn't, then ask me again sometime. We're back to Ricky. So you sold number 1 over in Ipswich and banked 100K. Took a bit of a break, which admirable, man. Like because there's nothing more important necessarily than the valued and loves family and all that sort of, because you can always make more money. That's my kind of mindset. You can do that. You can't get back time with the relatives or whoever's special in your life. And then what happened after that? You took a bit of a break and then came back to the journey.
Yeah. So when I sold that, I had 100K just to live on for a bit. And then so this was actually before regional New South Wales. So with that, so after mum and dad, so they both had operations. If anyone was curious, they both had operations to cut out their cancers, and both of them are good. We went back, we checked it out, so they're all clear. So
Happy.
because that was,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Was it
Yeah,
environmental? Like two the same?
it
Anyway,
was
sorry,
just,
don't answer that question.
no, it wasn't environmental. It was just it just happened. Just to give you an example, we're sidetracking, but my mum got lung cancer and she doesn't smoke. It just happened. Yeah. So
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
yeah, it's just one of those things. But anyway, so
Yeah. All
Uh,
good. Well, it's crazy that I mean you're saying I don't want to be in the mind space, but like you still were able, you were still pushing things forward because you were still like why were you still pushing things forward? Because you've got a crazy emotional stress during this entire time. Like, what was driving you? What's like the driving force behind you doing all of this?
I'm just driven. I just when I see something and I like, I go for it. I mean, you got to look after mum and dad, but I also don't want to give up because I'm trying to set up a generational wealth for my daughter. You know, maybe for her kids too. So I just have grit. I work well under
Yeah.
pressure. When shit happens, that's how you sort of that's how I build character, and that's why I'm so resilient. I don't care for insults and things like that. So I don't get offended easy. So yeah, uh,
Yeah, that's well. I mean, that's a solid why, right? Like, create something that you didn't have when you're growing up is yeah. I don't know. I think people need to spend a little bit more time on their why, about why they're doing this property thing, because it's incredibly hard. Like, especially early on, especially right now. Like, if you're buying a property that's 500, 600, 700, 800, $1 million, it's going to be negative. And if you can't afford, I mean, if you can afford $1 million property, you can afford it to be negative. But like, do
Maybe.
like when someone says, "Oh, I've got 3 properties," I'm not like, "Oh my gosh, you must be so wealthy." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, sorry, yeah, you're going to be suffering. You got to suffer in the negative cash flow." But it's the short-term pain for the long-term gain. That's where you got to do the things that people are uncomfortable doing so that you can get what people don't have. It's absolutely crazy. I always think, like, what would I do if I didn't invest? Like, what if I just spent my entire pay packet? And I'm like, wow,
You
I
mean
could
like
live it.
the most people, Joe? I suppose if you're like the everyday Joe, I mean you are. No, but there's a quote I like to say. I heard it's not mine. Success is never owned; it's rented. Like and the rent is due every day. So just because you've kind of
Right.
made those hard yards, you can't. There's never a guarantee that you're going to keep doing it. You have to keep showing up day in day out. There's so many questions on, and there's many properties. So Joe, I think are you okay with going over an hour and a half? I think we might need to. Because right now, we're at
Um,
an hour. We haven't even uncovered half of Ricky's portfolio, and I need to know.
mm,
Otherwise, I will not sleep tonight. I'm sure half the audience will.
yeah.
Um,
Okay. Well, we'll dive deep into the remainder of the portfolio. But anyone that has any questions for Ricky, throw them in, and we will get to them as we go
when you,
along in this conversation. Yeah. Okay. So wait, we're at property number. So I've got Ipswich, regional Queensland. We then went off to WA or South
New South Wales,
Australia.
regional New
New
South
South.
Wales is number 3.
Okay. South
sorry,
Australia.
maybe I'll keep count. So the first one was the home and land package. The second was regional Queensland. And then I sold. So before the New South Wales,
Yeah.
that's when I sold in between. And
Mm.
then with the proceeds from selling, um, that's when I got the regional New South Wales. And I also went to Vietnam again. And then 3 in regional WA. I
3 in
fast forwarded
regional
that.
WA. You
Three in
just
WA.
you just told us supposed to give us the suspense though, Ricky. We're supposed to unpack each purchase. Here we go.
No,
But so
sure.
he just told us the cat is out of the bag. The egg has been found. But first you just sold us. So what were the free in regional WA? Like what were the time frames, the purchase price, and all that sort of stuff? If you can share some of that.
Oh, time frames. It was all very in close proximity to each other. They were
Yep.
probably all within the last 3 was probably all done in the same year. It was probably all done in the same 12 months. Um, and it wasn't just me. I sort of found a little pocket that nobody looked at. Because everyone that was at the peak of thoughts on Perth. Everyone was flocking to Perth looking for these 500-600K properties. And
Yeah.
I was looking for not those. I went to sort of high yield, lower cost base assets, and I found this little gem of a pocket. And all the assets there have grown significantly. And I think Jeff, you sort of know where the address of them is. Of one of them is, yeah. So
So I
go
just
on.
I just have to address this. Not the way to go generally, Ems. I mean, so let's rewind this because you may have missed this, but Ricky bought a property in 2004 for 380,000 or whatever it was, and then it was negative 140k equity 14 years later in 2018. So I'm not saying that all house and land packages do that, because this is a very exceptional circumstance. But yeah, so typically, I mean, I'm not saying never buy them, but just be very cautious. You have to be. So sorry, go on, Ricky.
Well, in saying that, like I spoke with someone today, and they're like, "Oh, just letting you know, they're getting a $40,000 commission kickback." And the problem is, if you're buying something from somebody, and there's $40,000 going to somebody else, and you're the one putting the money in, that $40,000 is off of your value. There's no way that it is going to compute any other way, right? Like if someone's getting a $40,000 kickback for the deal, they're getting it. So your value should be $40,000 less, but you need to pay for their commission. So, yes, house and land packages, again, going back to what we said at the beginning around supply and demand, like just be very, very careful. Can you make money in house and land packages? Absolutely, if you do them correctly. The real money to be made is buying retail, buying wholesale and selling retail, right? Exactly what Jeff and I are doing in the Oz property portfolio, where we're buying properties that have subdivision potential value, and then we're going to build a house, and then we're going to sell this to somebody at a premium because there's an emotional element to it. But yes, house and land packages. Actually, Ricky, you learned your lesson from them, because you bought one at the beginning and you haven't bought one since. So why?
Why haven't you? So, but exactly what you said.
Yeah.
No, but exactly what you said. If a developer is selling a home and land package, right? You think of how many people need to get paid: the developer, the builders, or the tradies, the one who's marketing, the one who's spruiking. All these people are getting paid their commissions. Where do you think that's coming from? It's coming out of the home and land package, the price that you're paying.
Yeah.
And generally, the newer pockets for home and land, it's pretty consistent. I know there are always exceptions, because I could hear someone typing in the comments saying, "Oh, but I made some money." But like 99% of the time in new deals, new home and land packages, you're not going to get more than 450 square meters. I haven't seen them. They're generally like 300 square meters, 400 square meters. They're low blocks of land now, high asset value and low land value.
So somebody in the comments, I'm going to take us off because we talk about it every couple of weeks, and house and land. Yeah. We know that people want to hear more about it. Is important, of course. But I want to quickly. So this is a post you did. So I'm just going to talk to it because I couldn't be bothered trying to work out the bloody Zoom stuff. So you bought this property. You can tell us as much as you want about where it is. We did promise. Somebody's saying don't tell them because they want to buy there again. I'd be a little bit interested in that. But you bought this property in 2014 for $265,000. And this is in regional WA, and built in 2007, got some depreciation, free better, 800 square meters, 380 rents, currently renting for 480. And you've now got a valuation as of, what was that? 420,000. So you've made at least, I mean, you haven't necessarily made it, you haven't sold yet, but 420 minus 260. I'm just going to do that because that's simple. You've made $160,000, well, 155,000. It's not that hard, is it? In just over a year. So, mate, that's a pretty good. And I looked up the suburb growth on this. So 58% growth. And so, Ricky, what was the mindset? Is this the location where a lot of your regional, or you've got a couple of different regional WA locations?
Yeah, a lot of them are here. We found a good pocket at the right time, and along with family, we bought quite a few there, at a very low cost base, and they've
Ricky
all
moved the
grown
market.
similar to the one that you saw.
Ricky
Maybe.
moved the market.
No, I didn't move the market. I bought them at the low price. I didn't move the market.
Yeah,
But if anyone
nice
can
stuff.
see, can you see that address?
He's going to show.
Oh, you can't.
Nobody can see that, mate.
What is it?
I'll read it out. It's 7. Get your pens and keyboards or whatever ready. It's 7 Plymouth Road, Utakara. Plymouth is spelled Plymouth. Plymouth.
It's It's a
Utakaro.
suburb of Geraldton, by the way, for those who
It's a
Utakara.
suburb of the region of Geraldton. Yeah.
There you go, mate.
That's
That's
it.
absolute transparency. You said you've done.
Mm.
I would, yeah. You're game sharing that
Mm.
stuff on socials, but no. So, mate, what was the kind of thesis and mindset behind? Was it data? What led you to Geraldton or the outskirts of, and thereabouts around?
Oh, yeah. So, I knew that I can't afford a loan of 600K. And that's at the peak of everyone going to Perth. Absolutely everyone. If you scroll back in your group, every second post would be thoughts on Perth.
Yep.
And I knew I couldn't afford it. At the same time, also to keep my borrowing up, I also need super high yields. And at the time, I did the filters. I ran all the filters of all the criteria that I wanted in my property deal through realestate.com. And then I found this suburb, Utakara. At the time, I didn't even know that word existed. I've never heard of that before. And
Yeah,
then
there's
that's
no
when I
way
did the
you're going to be
research
able
and I
to
found,
spell it.
UTAKARI.
I don't know how many A's and
Isn't it?
R's and it's a
It's a
double
lot of
R, double
letters.
K, double Z. Yeah. But yeah,
Very
after
north
I
of
found it,
Perth.
I started making calls to all the agents there. And I found one and shout out to Serena if you're watching. I think she said she was watching, but Serena, she was my gateway to this little gem pocket of
The gateway.
Just
suburbs.
tell them to go.
She
Serena's
was
in
the
the
gateway.
comments already. Just tell them to call me.
She your agent? I mean, she the agent.
Go
over
on,
there, mate.
Serena. Get it done.
No, yeah. I built a really strong relationship with her, and at the time she was just flicking me deals like every second day, every 2 or 3 days I'd have a new deal. And I had so many deals. I bought a few, family bought a few. I started flicking them to friends. Thank you,
Nice.
Serena.
You started flicking deals onto friends again. Bloody Ricky.
Didn't be talking about this.
Maybe Serena in the comments. Why would you sell to Ricky? Like as an investor, how should they think about like building relationships with agents? Like, what are your thoughts on this from an agent's perspective of like why? Because it sounds like Ricky, you're quite educated to this. You've gotten educated, and then you're just like, no, I'm ready to make a deal. Let's make it happen. I don't know. Is there any insight that you can share, Serena, in the comments? But it's true. Like, go on, Jeff.
While she was typing, sorry.
He's despairing. He's missed out
While
now.
Serena's
Game over.
typing,
Yep.
yeah, while Serena's typing, I'll just sort of add that at that point, I think it was at the start of 2024, so only a little bit over a year ago. That was when I had like maximum confidence, and I was saying to Serena, I don't fuck around. I was just saying, Serena, here's my offer. At the time, they were advertising for 269, and I said, knock 4K off 265, and I'll sign it within 2 hours. Give me the contract now, and I'll sign it right now.
Within 2 hours.
And I did just that.
There we go.
Yeah, it was something like that. I don't know
Yeah.
the exact minutes and hours, but I said, yeah, if you knock off 4K, talk to the seller, and I'll sign it right now. And she literally, she called the owner and she sent me the contract, and I signed it like that day.
Did you get an inspection done?
Not at the time, but I did get the local. Very coincidentally, I was looking for a local property manager to build a relationship to do my inspections. It also happened to be her team as well.
Oh, yeah.
Independently. I didn't ask for her recommendation. I was calling around to find a property manager that suited my sort of taste. And it just happened to be a firm that she works for. Yeah. And so,
Okay.
they did the
That would have
inspection.
been an easy conversation.
So Serena's response was like, what should investors do to get better for agents is Ricky was pre-approved, honest, easy to deal with, and clear on what he wanted and what he didn't want. And that's what agents want to see from investors, because going back to what you said before, like agents don't care. They just want to get the deal done, serve their vendor, give them, get rid of the property that they want to get rid of, and then to someone that's not going to dick them around. And that's exactly what you kind of provided to be with yourself. Now, so you didn't even see the property, like you didn't have a video walkthrough or anything. You just went under contract in WA.
Yes. Yeah, so in the I did a bit of check on it, and the house was only 2000, built in 2013, so it was relatively new. And then I saw some photos of it. It looked really nice inside. I can't remember, but I may or may not have asked for updated photos or videos. I can't remember. Serena can probably confirm that. But yeah, the house was relatively new. It was only 10 years old. I couldn't imagine it being in terrible shape. So I just signed the
Okay.
contract. And
Serena
then
said
I
he
put some.
did get an inspection. Serena's like, hang on, hold on. We did give him an inspection.
Ricky, have you
No,
got
I did
selective
it. Sorry.
memory here, man? How many of these events have you?
No, it's like
Anyway.
I did a the typical finance and building and pest inspection, but I'm not sure if I did the sort of the initial walkthrough inspection. Building and pest, 100% I did.
You're
But
brave,
whether I
sir.
got
In
my
WA, you are very brave,
No
regardless
cooling
of how
off.
new or unnew the property is. But good
yeah,
on you.
I am very
I
risk
wouldn't be
taking.
comfortable doing
I'll
that.
give you
but,
that. I've signed so many contracts that I've never seen. I've never seen any photos. I look at the numbers and go, yeah, that's good. I've signed so many, but it sort of played out because I always protect myself with finance and building pests. So if something were to happen and I find something I don't like, I can always crash on finance. So
Yeah.
protect myself.
Yeah,
Come on, Joe, you know this.
balk when people say I can always crash on finance because there'll be a time where a vendor will be like, well, prove to me that you can't get finance, and then you just have to be very ironclad with your contract. If it's not ironclad
No,
tight, then,
I can crash with finance. We can
yeah.
crash with finance.
I've seen
Anyway.
I've seen vendors go after buyers, but yeah, generally you're okay. But yeah, I would not assume that you definitely can. But anyway, mate. Okay, so with the cat's out of the
State
bag,
by
that's
state
okay. So
dependent as well. Some states, it's easy. It's easier to pull out of. Like
Easy.
Queensland, for
Like,
instance, is a very
very-
easy state.
very
Like it's very
easy, right.
buyer-centric.
Very
Whereas WA is very seller-centric, where there's no cooling off, and the agents vendors can request a bank letter to pull out of the deal. A lot of the times it's like, oh, I can't be asked dealing with this guy and going through all that process. But you do have to be careful and cover yourself. But it's knowing what the state rules and regulations are for where you're buying, which doesn't take that much time. Like it doesn't take too much effort to figure this stuff out. Okay, so wait, you've bought 3 properties in WA. Were 3 of them in Geraldton?
maybe.
yeah,
Like
Joe, did you
yes.
read the room, man? He doesn't want to tell. I asked, like, were they in one location? So yeah, he's not comfortable sharing exact portfolio, but
It's possible.
yeah,
I gave one
he's-
address. I gave one full
Yeah,
address.
bloody hell, man.
So,
Yeah, it's very true. But God,
That's it.
silly.
So
Happy Easter, everyone.
there's been so many questions. We are missing one thing, Joe. One of the more important matters of the show. We'll throw to an ad and then we'll go to questions. And I want to ask you exit strategy as well. Let's do it because otherwise I'll be here
It's
all
all
night.
about education.
He stopped it. Did he? No, we did. Yeah, good on. So there's so many questions. I want to ask. Maybe we should have saved this question last, but we'll do it now because otherwise we won't get to it. I want to know, Ricky, what is your next move? Because I think that's what the question is on everybody's lips. I've heard rumorings of more properties, but is the rumor true?
Yeah, so I've been in just last week. I was speaking to my broker, and I'm able to pull some equity. Actually, the address that I've shared with you, that made some good equity. So I'm pulling equity out of that one. And there should be some borrowing out for number 7. And I'm also starting to look at. He also did a check for me. My broker did a check for me, and there also should be some borrowing for SMSF, one in SMSF. So number 8 is also on the horizon.
Wow, straight to SMSF. Lovely. Okay. And one of the questions that's popped up is around the trust structuring. Like, is that a consideration? Has that been a part of the journey? Like a trust where you need to be right now, but maybe not with these types of purchases you've been doing?
I've been talking to an acquaintance in the property field, and we sort of ran through my situation. He's actually seen all my numbers, my addresses, everything. And it looks like I might have to sell down, possibly, to start buying in a trust to keep going after 7. So, but that's I'll think about that when it happens. The only reason why I keep everything in my name, it's not because I'm ignorant to trusts. It's because of these high yielding properties that actually work in my advantage to be under my name, as you know how
Help you.
borrowing works, right? Yeah, they help me. If I start hiding stuff, not hiding, but if I start parking properties in trusts, I myself won't get the borrowing capacity for it. And I won't get the depreciation, which helps with the cash flow. So it's a sort of, it's a
Negative
juggling
gearing.
game. Yeah. So I'm open to trusts. It might be on my next. I might have to sell down 1 or 2, to start opening trust.
Yeah, interesting. It's like don't follow the herd. Just because other people are getting trust doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best fit for you. And in actual fact, it's actually helping Ricky not having a trust, and helping him borrow to do what he does. But again, not financial advice. Go speak to your accountant and do all that fun stuff. Save your sailing trip.
I would say it would be a lot harder to do what you've done today without trusts. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but to see the growth, yeah. But yeah, at the same time, you took action, man. So we can't. Nobody can take that away. Somebody will come along in 5 years' time and they'll have bought. Somebody said the other day, the next kind of thing will be 5 properties on 120k income, and everybody like, how did you buy 5 properties on 120k income? And that'll, because to do that on, I think I'm not going to say it's impossible, but yeah, you'd have to invent some sort of probably time machine. So let's kind of recap for those who are still watching, because we've got well in excess of almost 150 people coming. So how did you overcome borrowing capacity, considering were you positively geared? So it sounds like you mostly were. Is that the kind of one of the secrets? But also buying lower value properties at the time, from the sounds of it.
Yes. Basically everything I said just then, sort of answered that. So by putting them under my name, I get the benefit of all the yields to go into my borrowing capacity. And because I'm targeting those 8-9% yields, it wasn't that hard. And mind you, it was 8 or 9%, a couple of years ago. But my first couple of properties, they're on maybe 50% now, just because of over the years, the rent increases. So does that answer the question? Yeah. And also T3 lenders, First Mac. I've got a bunch of loans with First Mac, and at a time when Westpac and ANZ said to me, Ricky, no more money for you, First Mac said, here, have 900k, and I said, thanks.
Oh, what?
Straight off the bat.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's First Mac, there's Pepper, there's
First Mac is great. They do love to charge ridiculous amount of monies for their money, but
they're not too bad. What do you mean, Joe? Well, maybe they liked me more. What the rates that I was getting the other day? I mean, yeah, but I suppose it depends on LVR. LVR
they dropped it
as well.
recently.
They
dropped it
recently.
Okay, yeah, so when I signed up, say a year and a half ago or last year, it was about 7.5%. For whatever reason, just 2 months ago, they dropped it 0.95, almost a whole percent. So you can
Wow.
buy with First Mac 6.5%, and they give a lot of
Jesus.
borrowing. Look into it.
Yeah,
Chat to your
there is.
broker. They
There's
might be
so
able
many
to.
options out there. If your broker's saying you can't borrow, I would want them to give me a clear game plan within the next 3 or 6 months as to the things I need to do. And if they're not, if you want to build a portfolio, you probably need to knock on a few more doors, because there are lenders that'll do it. You just have to be sort of buttoned up with your cash flow, because if you're not buttoned up on that, you are potentially running yourself too close to the sun. Because I'm a bit risk averse. I don't mind pushing the envelope a little bit, a touch, but you still need to be comfortable with your own situation. And if that changes, can you continue to keep holding these properties? That's what you need to consider.
Well, let's get to some of these questions as we wrap up.
Okay.
There's a great one here. Is like this is from, I don't know how to say the name, but I think it's just a
MZM. Easy.
Them. What did
MZM.
you have to give up to achieve your current portfolio? What did the sacrifice? I mean, what did that look like along the way?
What did I have to sacrifice? I don't know. I think, I don't think I sacrificed to for this portfolio, but I think just having Chinese immigrant parents, I've always grown up to understand and appreciate the value of money. We weren't super wealthy or anything, so I don't go on 3 holidays a year. I don't spend $6,000 on a laptop, because a lot of gamer friends that I know, they buy these top of the range Alienware laptops so that they can play Counter Strike a little bit faster. I don't do any of that. So, but I don't. I do treat myself like birthdays, Christmas, stuff like that. We have good meals.
You bought me a
I don't
beer.
get
Thanks, mate. I
mate.
appreciate
Get
that.
me a bean, mate.
I need to buy you. Yeah, I need to
So
buy you a
look,
beer too.
but
He
so yeah,
remembered
so
though. That's funny.
Nice.
Okay.
I want to know this, because what is your plan to retire the debt? How does that sort of look? Have you thought about this?
uh, there you go. Not in detail, but I think it's pretty standard. You acquire a bunch of assets, let it grow, sell down half of them, pay down the other half, and then collect rent and retire. So I don't have it on paper exactly step by step, but I think that's a general plan. Maybe I'll get to a few more assets, wait for a few more booms, and sell down.
There we go.
Yeah. So what do you mean sell down? What does that mean? Sell down into what? Like sell all of them into or sell half or
Probably, probably sell half of them, pay down the debt on the other half, and then just collect rent as passive income to retire.
You need an ultimate wealth goal tracker, mate. That'll tell you exactly. You can punch your numbers in, and it'll spit out the number. So, yeah,
I could do
because
that
I
on
was like,
Excel.
oh, yeah, if you had that, I would give that to my. I was going to say to my 5-year-old, he'll be able to punch his numbers. He's probably more mathematically, but no. So there's heaps of questions, Joe. You pick a couple out, mate, or where are we going from here?
well, there's a question here about fixing rates. What do you think of fixing rates for a year right now? Oh, we got a lot of X's, got a lot of no's. Why would you not fix your rates right now, Ricky? Why?
All right. So I'll speak
Not
for myself. I
financial
can't give
advice.
any
Not financial
no
advice. Go
financial
and see your
advice here.
broker.
I'll
Speak to
speak
the
for
person
myself.
who's supposed to.
Yeah.
Unless the bank offers me a 4.5, I wouldn't fix it. Why would you fix it? I mean, the sentiment is that there's going to be rate drops. So yeah, unless it's significantly lower, like if it's 4.99, sure, maybe fix it for a year or two. But if it's not a big saving, I'd leave a variable. Multiple reasons, because you get the rate drops as well as with variable you can offset it. So if you've got some sort of savings, 10K, 20K, 30K, that's like a rate drop by having an offset.
Yeah.
But that's me.
What I would say to that, Ricky, and I don't disagree with your answer, but a lot of people think about it that way, is I would say generally you should fix if that's important, if the certainty of the rate is important to you. Like if you can't afford, because it's unlikely that rates are going to go up, very unlikely. I'm not going to say it won't happen, because hey, inflation could spike to 7% in the next couple of months, and very unlikely. But if that did and rates went up, and if that made you feel uncomfortable in your financial situation, maybe you should consider fixing. Whereas if you want flexibility, if you want it, and you can do a split loan as well. So you can do an 80% fix, you can do 20% variable, you can do all different sort of vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, all types of different flavors of interest rate kind of combinations. So and these are the kind of conversations your broker should be having with you. Like, what's important to you in a home loan? Like, are you just trying to build a portfolio? If so, maybe variable might be the thing, because in that way you can extract them more, and you can extract from fixed rates as well. There was a great question about locations and about what you think about them, because I just wanted to ask that. Maybe there's too many questions here. Throw a question in, Joe, and then we'll probably finish up in a couple of minutes, guys.
What was the one about?
Well, it was about, these locations boomed, but will they continue to grow? Because that was like, how do you think about that with those locations, given they've grown so much? And you and I had that chat the other day, but what do you think about that anyway, man?
You talk about where I bought. The locations that I bought, I think COVID did a lot of heavy lifting. A lot of them doubled. Is it worthwhile selling? Right now, not immediately, because I can get the benefit of pulling equity. So I can use, it's like a piggy bank. It's a positive gearing property that I can pull equity out as a deposit for another property. Like, it does everything. Unless I desperately need cash. Like, if I needed open heart surgery and I needed 150,000, I might sell. But I don't want to sell for the sake of selling. Because obviously there are exit costs and capital gains.
You don't need to.
Yeah, I wouldn't need to.
Literally don't need to.
Yeah.
If it's positively geared and it's not affecting his debt and his serviceability, there's no point selling. What have we missed? What have we missed in this session? What are we what would you like to kind of cover off and end this session on? Is there anything that we should have dived in a little bit deeper on, or any messages that you want to leave with these wonderful people that have checked you out? Everyone loves Ricky for some bizarre reason. This guy that's worked his ass off and made it happen. But yeah,
how dare he see results from the hard work and effort he's put in? But
are you leaving me to close?
No. Is there anything else you wanted to cover? Is there something we've missed in this session that you kind of were like, shit, we should have talked about this?
No, just work hard, educate yourself. I think the most important thing is educating yourself, whether you want to use a BA or not. Because if you use a BA, you'd at least want to know if you're getting a reasonably good deal. Because I see a lot of, and this is just feedback from the community itself. Like, I see, it was just the other day where someone said, I used to BA and we bought somewhere 3 years ago and now I'm negative 20K equity and I have to sell out. And am I allowed to take this BA to court? It was some stupid question like that. It's like, no, it's not his fault, it's your fault. You know what I mean? But yeah, get educated and definitely take action. Take action. Yeah, the difference between me and 99% of the population is not that I'm smarter, it's that I did something. While everyone is on Facebook asking silly questions, I just went out and I just did it. I made a lot of mistakes along the way. You saw the spreadsheet. I was collecting data factors that didn't even make sense. Terrain was close to water.
Yeah, you just made up metric.
Yeah, but test your ingenuity. Test your ingenuity. If you don't stretch your brain is gonna you don't know what you don't know, and the only way to find out is to stretch it. Stretch your knowledge.
Carol Dweck's kind of fixed versus sort of growth mindset. I think I haven't dived too deep in that book, but I know. How many properties do you want, Ricky? Can you share that on air?
How many do I want? Whatever my capacity can take me to. If I can get to 80, like Michael Shah, I'll take 80. But no, there's no end to it. As many as I can. How long's a piece of string?
Yeah. And we'll throw this one up as a last one, and then we'll wrap it up, Joe. Sorry, mate. Joe's like chewing his gum. He's like, I wasn't going to answer this because I don't like political conversations. I'm not on a Facebook group, not on. But final question: liberal Labor for property. Can I answer this one first, and then we'll throw it to Joe and Ricky. my answer is I actually don't care. Like whether the party that I'm going to be voting for wins or not, I don't give too many shits, to be honest. Like, yes, there'd be a couple of parties I'd be a little bit concerned if they won. They're not going to win, by the way, but I
The
don't care.
Green.
Like, my plan, yeah, maybe Green, maybe too. My plan doesn't change, so I can't control what people decide to vote for, and the majority of property Australians aren't necessarily property investors. So the party that probably would be best for property is probably not going to win anyway. So, or no, it's probably not going to win because property investors want them to win. So, Ricky, what do you reckon, mate? Are you gonna sit on the fence like me?
Yeah. Actually, I have it written down in my notebook to make a point of this. But I think people, it'll answer this question and a few more as well. But people got to stop wasting time, wasting brain space on things that don't directly affect your journey. Like people asking, is the rates going to go up or down next month? Who's offering the lowest rate? Is Labor or Liberal going to win? Is Trump going to win? Like, who cares? Like, move on with your journey. Have a plan in place and follow that
Yeah.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. Like what the key takeaway that I've taken from this conversation is
Come on,
take
Joe, say
take
Liberal.
action. Take
Somebody give
massive
us an
action.
answer.
Well, I mean, Labor's been in, and we've had one of the biggest booms. So
Well,
maybe it's there.
not to do because of in all honesty, I think Liberals probably better, but yeah, it doesn't matter whether they're both.
For property investing, Liberals have a property investing bent. Getting the Greens in would be an absolute devastation for the property market. So I think it would
never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
it's never going to happen, but it's not really realistic. But the funny thing is, there was I made a great post in the group, which I didn't make. It was just a forwarding someone else, and he's just talking about how these policies the government create just stimulate the economy stimulate the property market by just giving more money to first home buyers that then go into the market, which then raises prices for not only first home buyers but also the people that live there. So it's not actually solving the housing problem. Like the real solution would be to build more houses and make it better and easier for tradies and cheaper for tradies to build houses but we're not going to do that because that's not as attractive as saying I'm going to give.
Takes too long. It's not going to happen in the next 4 years, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it doesn't take that long. Yeah, it does. It does. You've got to get the training and education and blah blah blah. You're right, and then it's only temporary, and then you've got all these tradies. What are they going to do? Just live in. Anyway, cool, Ricky. Unreal session. Thank you very much for sharing this. Actually, wait, are you doing a meetup tomorrow?
Oh yeah. Can I make a plug? Can I make a minor plug?
Yeah. I was just
make a plug. This is your plug. We should have bloody talking about. I don't know why we didn't talk about this at the beginning. But what's this whole thing?
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I created a meetup community. Where we do live meetups. We have beer and talk about property. And tomorrow I happen to this is Sydney. Our group actually goes across Australia. I look after the Sydney region. Tomorrow I have a special guest, Todd Sloan from Pizza and Property, coming to have a beer with us. He doesn't drink. He'll have his.
Have you got Michael? Have you got Michael Shah coming along too, or
I spoke to Michael, and he's got daddy duties. But we've got a few people coming to say hello. The expected turnout. I booked a little private corner at Shark Hotel. So if you want to come and meet 50 other property investors.
Where's the Shark Hotel?
On Goulburn Street, mate. Come on, Joe. I know you don't get out these days, but in the Sydney CBD.
Yeah, it's like 2 blocks away from Chinatown.
Yeah, very centrally located.
But Toddy Sloan is joining us.
I'll be popping along, and I might even see if we can get Joe. I can't promise that Joe will come, but we'll do our best. We had Mattia. Might even get Polizzi along, so we'll get some. But I just love chatting to people, so it's not about the big names, and I'm not a big name. So, but yeah, Ricky, mate, appreciate all the stuff you've given and listening to me to tell you to tone it down a little bit over the years. So thank you very much for that. Otherwise, I might have had I like people getting along. So anyway, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for the transparency as well. Thanks for sharing the insights. Like you don't need to make $1 million. You don't need to make $300,000 to be a property investor. You can achieve on a lower income and get some incredible results if you take action and make it happen and learn and grow as you get along. Let's go buy a property, guys. See you later. Thanks, Ricky. Oh, yeah.
Thanks for tuning in,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank you.